Hello everyone and welcome back to Groove Gaming. Today I'm a little sick, but we're not going to dwell on that. I have not seen you guys in a while. I've mostly been playing the patch to death. And I have a lot to say about this patch. This is basically my review of the patch. And if you happen to hear any weird noises or audio inconsistencies, that's probably because I'm holding my mic. I took it out of its stand because I just can't talk really loudly today. So, without further ado, let's get this started, shall we? So in the background, you'll just see some random footage that I've captured through my playtime. I did have a lot of fun doing this. It was just nice to sit back, relax, and just record some random gameplay from PvP and PvE. So hopefully you enjoy the background footage. But my review today is going to start out with the actual PvE content because I've been playing that a lot, and I can see how PvP seasons ended. Not many players are playing that anymore. People have started to go migrating towards the PvE side of the game, so that's where I will be starting. And I will probably be referring to the patch notes. I have them handy right here. So I guess we might as well just jump right into it. It's the best thing to do. Don't prepare, just jump into it. Basically the big things that have changed with PvE in the first place is the amount of experience you get. You'll get 50% more experience, which means your masteries will be going by super fast now. I actually got to a point where I ran out of mastery points to actually spend, so I have to go farm some mastery points. So you're getting 50% more experience just from creature kills, and then 30% more experience from from completing events if you get gold. And there's no more diminishing returns, and from what I understand, diminishing returns were basically a decrease in the amount of XP you got, mostly because of the amount of bots that Arena were monitoring during the first couple months of the expansion's lifetime. But now that they've kind of got their ground with the botting, I guess they've managed to, or they've decided as a company to increase the amount of experience players get from completing rewards or events or killing enemies. And then, so that was the first major change with the PvE side. Now with the actual flow of the events, at least in Heart of Thorns maps, the big changes actually happened to the Heart of Thorns maps. Most of Central Tyria maps stayed the same, or they had minimal changes. But the one thing that changed that I think everyone noticed is that there is no longer this sense of following the meta to get your reward. It's much more personalized now. So there's no more progress bar in certain zones or times of zones. In Verdant Brink, there's no more progress bar in the daytime. It's only in the nighttime now. And Defending Tyria in Auric Basin, there's no more progress bar for that either. So now you complete events, and then through your participation in the map, you will get rewards once you fill up a bar. And you can actually examine the bar by just clicking to the right of your map. If you're in a PvE zone, you'll see a little chest to the top right of your map, and you can click that and see where you're at. I find it really handy, and I love the visual appeal of it. It's very visually appealing, and overall, I find it a great change because mostly, I know for at least personal experience, I don't have time to complete all the meta events in order. I have stuff to do, the personal stuff. I have to go do a video. So it's in the long run, it's going to make more casual players. I use that term, use that word loosely. But players who might not have enough time to actually sit in an event and play it through can now still get ample rewards that satisfy their needs. And that was two most, general changes that happened. And then through the 4 maps, they have looked at the 4 maps, and they've changed a couple of the events. And with changing the events, a general rule for which they had going into this patch was that they decrease the chance that a waypoint will be contested. So basically, you're allowed to use waypoints all the time now. I've very rarely run into a case where a waypoint is contested, but usually if it's contested, it usually gets uncontested fairly quickly. That's just my personal luck or personal experience. I don't know how others are finding the waypoint changes, but in my opinion, or in my experience, I've seen that I'm more freely to waypoint around the map, which is always good because I've found myself fairly agitated, I could say, if a waypoint's contested, especially in, just to give you an example, in Verdant Brink, if I have to go to the Noble area, usually that waypoint was contested all the time, but now it's not, so it's another bonus. Thank you, ANET. Waypoints are always nice to have. But let's get more in depth with the actual zones. Verdant Brink. As I said before, during the daytime there is no more progress bar. It's much more personalized now. But with Verdant Brink, a lot of the events have changed so that they can actually be repeatable now, so that if people come in at a certain time, they can still do them. So basically, a handful of events will just continue to repeat. But once you complete them, there will be obviously a downtime. So it's just not like an endless event. There'll be a little bit of downtime, but they will repeat more often, I should say. And then they've increased the rewards. It seems like they've increased the amount of loot is just, it's crazy. The amount of loot you're getting because it is personal. You get so much more loot now. I was actually in map chat in Verdant Brink, and people are just like, wow, there's so much loot now. There's so much, I can salvage so many things and get so much money. So that's one thing. They've also been tweaking some of the events so that they won't proc if it initializes at night. I guess there were some instances where events would actually pop if it was night, or if they wouldn't pop. So in general, they're just fixing when the events end up starting. They've also fixed some issues with events. If they fail, there might have been a bug. And they've reduced warm-up timers on repeatable events around the Broken Bluffs area. So that just goes hand in hand with the increased amount of events that end up playing in the map. And then they talk more in depth with the waypoints. And then in general for Verdant Brink, they actually decreased enemy spawns in a couple of the choke points. So there won't seem like a sense of getting hoarded by Mordramoth, which, in my opinion, I actually liked the sense of being under attack. But with that being said, a lot of players might have started complaining. Personally, I would complain after I died countless times. But I feel like I might miss that in a sense, or in a way. But less enemies now, so you have a higher chance of actually surviving, which is kind of sad, but we'll live with it. Chest awarded by boss defeated in canopy events have had their models changed, so they don't require a crowbar. They're just basically a chest. And those are the biggest general changes that I have noticed, in Verdant Brink at least. And they've also decided to take a look at the hero points, and they are making them much more soloable. I know some in Verdant Brink. I know the bat one. I think it's the Guana hero point, the one where it's the bat. I've realized, or I've experienced countless times where you actually have to get basically a raid, 10 people to actually take down that hero point, which I am completely for decreasing the difficulty in hero point challenges, just so you can get your specialization faster, because everyone wants to go for the specialization. And if you are prohibited from getting that because you need more people, and especially if you do it during the daytime, not a lot of people are up in the canopy, and people might not be doing hero points. So overall, it's just frustrating if there isn't enough people there and you just continue dying. So they've looked at some of the hero challenges and toned down their difficulty. And then just this should be said for any map. They fixed bugs, just general bugs, like if there's a merchant selling something that's not priced correctly, or if things are selling for oddly. I don't know. I don't work at ArenaNet. I feel like it'd be really fun though. And then once I've covered basically all Verdant Brink stuff, and so let's start moving on to Auric Basin. So basically, they've also looked at the events, made sure they're starting up at the proper times and they are scaling correctly. And they've also taken a look at the defend to rear as well, and they got rid of the progress bar for that, just like in Verdant Brink with the daytime area. They added a couple of the events, which can be said for, I think, almost all the maps, except for Dragon Stand. They've added events mostly because they have to have a larger variety now that it is based on a personal reward system. And if you don't have a lot of events, people will just be standing around doing nothing. So they've added events, they fixed some waypoints, and they've actually, in Auric Basin, they changed some points of interest around, or at least adjusted them. So if you will get into a certain range, and you will get the point of interest. And then again, hero challenges, and then just general bug fixes. Tangled Depths, it's pretty much the same thing, but they did change the chalk Garant a little bit. I did actually do the chalk Garant, and I was doing the Scar Lane, and I noticed that people were like, "Oh, you can actually break the break bar now. It's not a bad thing to do anymore." So they took a look at the break bars and how the mechanics work, and they changed some things there. So it's actually viable to break the break bar, and it actually gives you 5 seconds. Or someone said, I don't know if it's true or not, but someone's like, yeah, it gives you about 5 seconds more of damage. So that's a plus, because I know that particular lane, when you're doing the chalk Garant event, that's always the slowest one. No one really likes to do it. But because of this change, I feel like it's going to get some more attention, and people won't be so dreary about doing that specific lane. And then general bug fixes, and the Dragon Stand, which I find really interesting. They increased, for those of you who don't know, once you complete the meta event in Dragon Stand, you used to have 15 minutes to explore the area. Now you have 25. The whole reason you can't explore the area anytime is because the whole map is under attack. It's a very unique map, if you did not know that. So now you have 10 more minutes to actually explore the area, which will help for map completion. So you actually have more time to figure out how to get to a hero point challenge, how to get to a vista, how to get to a point of interest. So in general, you have a lot more leeway to actually just roam around and maybe just take in the scenery and listen to the music. Hey, I like to do that sometimes. Probably other people do. And then in general, they changed where some ranger pets are located, so that it's not in a specific area. They're more scattered now, so you can now find them in more places. And then they actually decided to change some stuff with adventures. I'm not a huge adventurer, but reading the patch notes, they changed some of the time limits, some of the rewards, and overall decided to take a look at adventures. And I think adventures are a great source of gameplay, even though I don't do them a lot. I do them sometimes, but from the adventures I have taken part in, they are great fun and a great addition to the game. And I do think they actually deserve a really good look at. And they decided to do it with this patch, and I'm very happy with that. And then they talk about the achievements that go on in the areas. They just fixed some achievements in the area, I'm guessing, in the general maps of Heart of Thorns. But then we have the big stuff for achievements. They ended up, in my opinion, almost revamping, or I don't know about revamping. They added so many more daily achievements that you can actually do, or that can proc, and then you can do. But they've added so many. I was actually very surprised when I started reading the patch notes. I was like, I didn't even know these were a thing. Well, of course they weren't a thing. They weren't added yet, but I didn't even know that these were tangible. Jumping puzzles. I'm so glad they brought back the jumping puzzles. If my memory serves me correct, jumping puzzles were a part of dailies back in season 1 or something. That was so long ago. I still don't remember. They also put in mini dungeon dailies, which don't really see too much love, in my opinion. I don't see a lot of people talking about mini dungeons, but they decided to add it in. So those are going to get some more attention, which is always great. And then the big change, in my opinion, for the dailies. They added dailies for dungeons. And speaking of dungeons, they basically just increase the amount of rewards you get. You get some more gold, and you get some more shards based on the dungeon you're doing at the time. And I think this is ArenaNet. Actually, I know it's ArenaNet taking a step back and looking at what they did to dungeons and kind of reverting their changes or their decisions they made. And I think it's a great idea because I love dungeons. I love the story the dungeons tell. I don't necessarily care too much for the other paths. Most of the paths I enjoy, but some of them I'm not a huge fan of. That's just me. But having this variety of different paths to do, it allows players to take in some more story, enjoy the content that they did create, and kind of left in the dust in this expansion. But I feel like this is an attempt to start to rekindle the love for dungeons. And now that they've added more rewards, it is going to be, I hope, a hot thing to do. And then they start talking I'm reading the patch notes right now. They just start talking about the new rewards, new repeatable achievements, as I said before. And they actually changed some of the weapon drops for the Aetherblade weapons. So great changes for the dungeons in general. They really did need it. When I was expecting dungeons in Heart of Thorns before they even told us any actual ample news. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, there has to be like 2 more dungeons because I love the story that the dungeons actually tell. And I didn't get that. Or we didn't get it in general. I don't know why I said I apologize. But the consumer didn't get that. But, they did. I forgive them because they had to split. They had to decide what to work on, as every game developing or game company has to do. And I feel like it was, in the long run, it's a wise choice, splitting their team and kind of leaving dungeons on the back burner for now. I don't know. People might completely disagree, but smart, I think so. So now that we've covered all the basic general PvE content, such as the maps and the achievements and dungeons, now I'm going to finally touch point on the topic of fractals. And oh my glob. I have no words. Fractals have gotten so many changes. And in the trailer, that one video I did, interpreting the trailer, I noticed that there was a lot of footage of dungeons. So I expected this expansion or this patch, patch, to have a lot of changes to fractals, and I was not expecting this amount of change. But the main fractal that they actually decided to take a look at was the Colossus fractal or the Cliffside fractal. And they actually streamlined it, so you don't have to go, if any of you have done the fractals or that specific fractal, you'd have to go through these hallways and then go around the sides and maneuver up. But now you actually just go straight up. They've changed where the planks of wood are to basically take you straight to the next platform, so you don't really have to do, in a sense, a jumping puzzle. And then along with that, they've changed some other fractals, more benign changes to fix either some bugs, content, or things proccing, like the actual boss's abilities. And yeah, they've done a really great job, in my opinion, with the fractals. I've actually yet to do a fractal since this patch. There's just so much to do that I've kind of been focusing my attention to the PvE changes. But I will be getting into a fractal real soon, and I can actually bring you like my full personal review of that, of the fractal changes. And touching on the topic of the Colossus boss, they actually changed the final boss to no longer sit where it originally sat at the beginning of the fractal. He is no longer there. He's only at the end. So it saves some time. It saves some agony. And I think that was a good decision, because I think it was just like so ingrained into everyone's brains that no one really like thought, why is he here? Everyone's just like, okay, he's here. Oh well. But yeah, those were the changes to the fractals. And then we have the molten bosses and the molten furnaces, and in general, basic changes. I think they have touched on topic of that they are going to be continuing to look at other fractals, and seeing what they can revamp. And also, I did hear, I don't know exactly where I heard this, but I heard something that they are planning another fractal. I think we've all known about this, or had at least a guess that they would be adding another fractal. But I think it was stated that they are working on another fractal, and that they have plans to release it this year. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. But that's just another thing that they're doing for fractals. And then we move on to the actual new legendary that they actually just released, Chuka and Champawat. It's a great name. I don't know, whoever came up with that name deserves a raise. I don't know. The name appeals to me. Not necessarily the short bow in general, but the name I love. But basically, it is the newest legendary that has come into the game. And actually the last legendary that they are going to be putting in the game, at least for Heart of Thorns. They could go back on it. I know humans have decisions that they make and decisions that they change. So they could hopefully they revert the change or the decision to stop the production of legendaries. Hopefully they find some time to actually put out at least a couple more legendaries, but who knows. For now, we're sticking with this as the last legendary for Heart of Thorns. But for the actual quest line, I guess you could say, for getting the Chuka and Champawat, the new short bow legendary, because I'm not someone who goes after legendaries, I've heard from other people who are going for it that the actual progress of going through it is so much more enjoyable than the other legendaries that they put in Heart of Thorns. They did a great job at implementing the story, and like it is basically a quest, but through the achievement panel. And so that's another good thing about this patch. This whole patch really has a bunch of positives. I don't know if too many negatives stand out. There's always like one or two negative things, but in general, this patch is pretty solid. And their storytelling and their actual way of conveying content through the legendaries is gotten better. I've heard. I have not personally done it, but I've heard that it's gotten better. So that's another thing. And then just to touch on the topic, if any of you have bought Heart of Thorns, have Heart of Thorns, are getting Heart of Thorns, you will now be receiving a free level 80 character boost, which I never would I ever have dreamt that ArenaNet would give us a free level 80, because they already have Tomes of Knowledge, and the leveling in this game is already so fast. It's incredible. It's one of the fastest leveling experiences I've ever had in an MMO. So I was very surprised. But they did put it in, and it is, the way they actually implement it is so smart. I would have never actually thought this is how a game company would go about implementing it. It's a free trial, basically. You can do it on any character. You can say free trial mode, and then you will be teleported to the Silver Wastes and given level 80 gear, level 80 exotic gear, and you're going to be raised to level 80. And you can try out that class for however long you want. There is no time limit. And then once you're done with that, you can either revert the change and go back to your previous level, which it will still be saved, or you can actually confirm it and will actually just boost you permanently to level 80. So this means you can actually try out every single class without any repercussions. Think that's an amazing way to for new players to test out which class or which profession they are interested in and which profession fits their thematic pleasures, I guess. I don't know. That's what I go on. If it's thematically appealing, I'll probably go for it. So I feel like there are definitely other people out there who share the same beliefs I do. So great. Kudos, Arena. Congratulations. I would have never, ever thought, but this is an amazing addition. And it gives you one free account-wide inventory slot, which is great because now I can put something in there finally because I did not have any of those. And now it just makes me want to buy more gems to get those. So smart move, ain't it? I'm loving it so far. And then that was basically for the Chuka and Chapawat, and then the free level 80 boost. And now we're going to be moving on to some of the more UI visual changes of looking for group tab. I did not think they were going to change this at all. But the aerodrome, I knew it was going to be like, I had a sense that it was going to be a raid lobby type thing. I did not think they were actually going to change the physical looking for a group tool when you hit Y, or at least that's the default binding. I'd never thought that they would actually change it, but they did, and they changed it in such an amazing way. They gave it new and improved visual flair, visual flavor. It's much more visually appealing. The tabs have icons now, and there's a lot more tabs. I was not expecting this many tabs. But the first tab is open world. Everyone knows that. But then once you click open world, there are sub tabs. The first one is Central Tyria parties, and then Central Tyria squads. So those are the Central Tyria tabs. And then the next tab is world bosses. So this is where you're looking for other people who can team up to fight world bosses. And then the next 4 tabs are the Heart of Thorns tabs. The first tab is Verdant Brink, second one is Orc Basin, third one is Tangled Depths, and then the last one is Dragon Stand. No-brainer, absolute no-brainer. I loved this change because it gives it, so it allows people to know where they're going and what they're looking for without just sitting in general or the open world tab, browsing through the parties to see which people are doing which content. So now you can go to a tab and know that other people will be looking for the same content. So great change, ArenaNet. And then they have the one tab that I don't know why, but it's an achievement tab. I guess it's for people who want to group up to do achievements, which I think is also great because I love doing achievements. I love getting that AP. So if you're into achievements, you got an achievements tab now. And then the next tab is the story journal. And then the 3 sub tabs are My Story, Heart of Thorns, and then Living World. My Story is your personal story, 1 through 80. Heart of Thorns is the Heart of Thorns story. And then Living World is the Living World Season 2 story. So those tabs are pretty self-explanatory. And then the next tab we have is mentoring. I don't know why they would put that in. I don't see many people using that tab at all. Personally, I don't think I would ever use it. It's for new players who are looking to learn and for veteran players to help teach. I don't feel like people go out of their way to go to looking for group tab. They probably just go to general chat and ask for help. So I think that's one of the tabs that will be underused. And then we have the World versus World tab, squad and party play, fairly simple. And then we have the raids tab, which, oh my gosh, is so handy now. Now I can actually go to a certain place where I know other people are looking for raids, and I won't have to sit through the open world looking for group tab, just waiting for someone to say, oh, I'm looking for a raid. So great change, Arena. And then our final tab is role playing. they're giving some love to the role-playing community, obviously. I'm not a huge role player. I do love role-playing. I enjoy viewing people role-play. It's very interesting art. I consider it an art, wow. But it is very interesting to watch. So now you have a tab where people can get together and start role-playing. I actually looked at this tab and there were actually a couple people in there. So I don't think this will be underused. It might be underused compared to some other tabs, but I still feel like it will be used. So now you have a place to meet and congregate. And along with the looking for group tab improvements, squads can now advertise their squad. So I can't even tell you how important this is for the PvE map gameplay. You now no longer have the terrible task of joining the party, getting into the map, finding the commander, and then joining the squad, and then the map is full and you can't even get in. So great improvement. Though I still find some people, I don't know if they're trolling, but they will advertise their party when their squad is full, especially if it's Dragon Stand. People, be more aware. Just kidding. And then that was basically everything with the looking for group tab. Great changes once again. Overall, high marks, 10 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoy the changes. And now we're going to the category of the PvP side, which, if you don't know already, Season 2 of PvP has ended, and Season 3 will be on its way, hopefully soon. I actually don't know what the average time was in between Season 1 and Season 2, but hopefully Season 3 comes by fairly quickly, because I did enjoy Season 2 quite a lot. But for PvP, first, right off the bat, they've changed Skyhammer, and they've given it basically a whole different look. They've changed Skyhammer and Spirit Watch. Skyhammer is now more of the actual Skyhammer itself. It's now more of a timed event or optional event. It is now no longer 100% available. There's only certain times during that match when it will be available. And then for Spirit Watch, they've decided to change the orb, and they've decided to change what time it spawns, the interval in between it spawning, it being used, and it respawning. So overall, great. And at least for the Spirit Orb, I don't see how that's a huge change, mostly because I usually am the person supporting the people going for the Spirit Orb. I'm not necessarily the person going for the orb. So that is, in a sense, I would count that as a minor change. I don't think I would count that as a major change compared to Skyhammer, when it was basically given a whole different look. And then they've changed every map, but not as drastically. They've given, at least for, I think it is Forest and Niflhel, they've changed some of the beasts, or they've changed when the beasts spawn and when they respawn. And then for the other maps, they've just done some slight tweaking. I don't know anything about Battle of Kylo. I don't think they changed anything for that map. And then they've, aside from Conquest, they changed Stronghold a bit. I do not do a lot of Strongholds, mostly because I keep forgetting to recheck the tab that says allow for Strongholds. But they have changed it where the Mist Champions will now spawn at 50% of their health. And so over time, I guess they will start regenerating their health, or will rely on players to heal them up. So advocating some more support builds, which is always great to see, because I'm a major support fanatic. And now now we've covered PvP, we've covered basic PvE. Now let's move on to the hardcore PvE raids. They've introduced the raid lobbies, and if you have not seen, actually you all should have seen. It was the first piece of footage in this video. That was the aerodrome, and from my experience, I've gone to the aerodrome, and there are a lot of people there. So it is a very well populated area with a bunch of people who are very passionate about raiding. and overall, a great change. You have the merchants for ascended equipment that you can actually buy, mats, an auction house, a bank, a merchant. I don't. There is no general merchant. There's the merchant for the actual ascended weapons. There's no general merchant, which I think they should add that, because I was in there looking for a general merchant and I was like, where is it? But that's just one suggestion. They've added portals to the 2 raid wings so far, and then they have added a space where you can actually train and you can actually test out builds. I think it's called like the Special Forces Training Arena, or like this, I don't know. It's an arena where you can actually spawn a golem. There are 3 different golems: a weak one, a medium health one, and then a tough one. And then you can apply conditions. You can also apply boons. You can apply profession-based abilities or passive abilities onto yourself and see how those scale with your build, and just test out fun things. I went in there and just bursted all the conditions and all the boons and all the profession-based passive effects, and it was really fun. I just had a great time there. They've also changed the way scribing works. I'm not a scriber at all, so this area has not been an interest to me as much as the other areas. So basically, they have reduced the costs of scribing. I know that a lot of people were very upset at how much scribing cost, especially at the earlier levels of learning how to scribe. It was very expensive. And I completely agree. No crafting profession should be super expensive, at least at the beginning. And fun fact, I actually just got my armor smithing to 500 a day. I was so bored. But that's a side note. And then, what else am I forgetting? Oh, World versus World. I will not touch base on World versus World as of yet. There are so many changes where I feel compelled to make its own personal video. It was so... When I was reading the patch notes, I decided to just skip it because I knew it was going to be so much information where I had to just like completely give it its own day. So I will be touching base on World versus Worlds on my own time. The World versus World video will be its own entity. I will not include it in this video. I'm sorry if you were looking forward to that. But there's just so much where I'm going to give it a dedicated video, hopefully. It'll be a fun time. And then they decide to talk about the general profession skills effects. They touch base on the effects, and they actually, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but they reverted their decision to make Fireball one of the weakest looking spell effects in the game. It is now back to its original size, and it is so much more satisfying to hit someone with it. Oh my god, it's so much fun. I don't know why. And also, they have been given, they gave each profession its own unique area of effect ring. And I don't know, but I loved this change so much. I don't know why. I think it's just something, if something is visually different, I automatically love it. Except for the Fireball. It was just too small. Wink, I'm just kidding. But they did give each profession its own area of effect ring. Great decision, by the way. Gives it its own unique personal flair. And it's so much more satisfying to cast AoE spells now. I don't know why. It's just this subconscious thing that makes me so happy. And then also, touching base on the spell effects, they did update the effect LOD option in the graphics tab. It was always there, but I never really saw it. I never really noticed it being super effective. When you toggle it on before, it only make a couple of the spell effects disappear, but now it basically trims down like 2/3 of the spell effects. I was in Dragon's Stand and I turned it on and I was like, there's so much less particle effects. I love it. There's so much more FPS for people who are on lower end NPCs or even a higher end NPC or PC. Did I say NPC? I apologize. PC. I experience lag with a lot of the particle effects in the game. So it's always a great thing to have, culling spell effects. And then they also, touching base on the visual look of the spell effects. For AoE combo fields, they gave it its own personal identifier. So dark fields now have a dark ring around it, and light fields have a gold ring around it with light emanating from the edges. Lightning, I know, has a purple ring around it with lightning crackling up. Water has a blue ring around it with water spewing forth, and then it's very visually satisfying as well. A lot of visual improvements during this patch, which I love. And that seems to be basically all that has really changed. As you guys, there was also some more stuff added to the Black Lion trading post. New update, new Black Lion stuff, a new outfit, the Sentinel outfit, and then some new weapons, the Spectral skins. I will not touch base on the professions today, mostly because this already is a super long video. But that was the basics of this new patch. The PvP, or the PvE changes, Heart of Thorns map changes, PvP changes to Skyhammer and Spirit Watch. World vs. World changes, which are a lot. I will do its own video on that. And then raid changes. A lot of quality of life changes, a lot of quality of life improvements. So basically, my personal experience with this patch is it has sparked such a deeper love. I didn't even know my love for this game could go any deeper than it already is. But this patch has given me, dare I call it, faith in ArenaNet, because there was a content drought and we were not sure how this patch would play out. But this patch, in my opinion at least, I'm talking personally here, you don't have to agree with me at all, but I will say this patch, in my opinion, was the best patch they've ever put out. Aside, I don't count the expansion as being a patch. I find it its own entity, but in my opinion, best patch they've ever pushed out in this game. So many improvements. I've heard nothing but great replies in map chat. There's been like one or two negatives where people are not really grasping the concept of the personal meta changes, but that's something that people will get used to over time, and I'm fairly certain that people will start to get like more accepting of the changes that have taken place in Guild Wars 2. So overall, I'd rate it 9.5 out of 10. World vs. World is in beta, so if World vs. World was done, I would give this a 10 out of 10, hands down. But 9.5, mostly because World vs. World is in its beta stages of being revived. So yeah. That was basically the whole entire video. Wow, I talked for a long time. I've never talked this long. But I hope you guys enjoyed. That was basically the rundown of the patch, and then my review. So basically, actually, let's talk about a couple minutes about my review. Great changes for PvE, great changes for PvP, and great changes for raids. That's my review. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for watching. I know this was a very lengthy video. This was the longest video I've ever done. Wow. But thank you guys so much for dropping by and listening. If you happen to listen this long, if you listened to the whole thing, congratulations. If you skipped around to the end, I see you too. I do that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not subscribed already, I highly suggest you do. Helps keep me motivated. Like the video if you liked it, and comment down below. And hopefully I will see you guys very soon. And yeah, Kroof out. Bye. Hopefully everyone enjoys the patch, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.